Thank you. 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order, and the first item of business is adoption of the agenda. Moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that the agenda be adopted as printed and circulated. Are there any issues with the agenda? I am going to suggest that we pull ahead item 9A, the request for the exemption for the fireworks, since Mr. Matheson is here, and we can deal with that, and he can go about his day, unless he wants to stay for the rest of the riveting council meeting. Bevan, do you want to stay for the rest of the riveting council meeting, or no? Thanks for the brutal honesty. So I'm going to suggest that we just pull that up a little bit, yeah, maybe after minutes and stuff, and just deal with that if everybody's agreeable to that. Okay. Moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that the agenda be adopted as printed and circulated. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Not seeing any. Minutes moved by McDonald, seconded by Mitchell, that the minutes from the September 7th, 2022 council meeting be adopted as printed and circulated. Are there any issues with those minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then, if you are all okay with it, then item 9A, correspondence requiring direction, fireworks exemption application from Andrew Phillips and Janelle Matheson. Andrew Phillips, just Bevan Matheson attending then, right? Okay. And you all have the exemption form in front of you. Their exemption application in front of you. I'm just going to dig it out here because I didn't do it before. There it is. So before I read this motion, are there any questions for staff on the application? I have moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that the Township of Zorra Council approve the application for exemption to the fireworks bylaw submitted by Andrew Phillips and Janelle Matheson for an event held on October 1st, 2022, and that the applicants contact the neighbors to the property prior to the event, informing them of the fireworks display to be held. Does anybody want to speak to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There you go. Yeah. Well, like I said, you could stay, you know. Well, there you go. Now that you have the time, right? All right, then. So, yep. Just the condition that's in there, Bevan, right? So it says, you're all good. You're all good. Like Karen said, you'll get an email that says, here's your permission per, and that's it. You just comply with that and you're good to go. Okay? So, yeah, right? So, no reports from staff until we get down to Public Works. So, 8.4A, Report 2022-155 from the Director of Public Works regarding construction update of the Zorra Maintenance Facility. Steve, what do you want to highlight in there?
No, nothing to highlight.
Questions from council on that report? Ron?
The transformer that, was that, they're installing that so that to operate the air compressor, or is that a temporary thing, or is that permanent?
That'll be a permanent thing.
That's permanent.
Yeah.
Okay. And we weren't able to swap out motors?
Apparently not. So, and to get a new compressor was quite the wait time. So this is a easiest fix and at no cost to us or the subcontractor, which he's happy about. So it's being supplied by the supplier of the compressor. So.
Anyone else? Paul?
I've got 3 solar panel questions and 2 geothermal questions. So first question is, how long will do the contractor think it'll take to install the solar panels?
Yeah, he said depending on how much help he can wrangle up to get done, it could be anywhere from 3 to, I think he said 6 weeks in his email, Paul, the response, or.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, fairly quickly. There's a fair bit of work to do, obviously. So,
yeah,
like he said, the more help he can get, the quicker it'll go.
And will there be any conflict between the pavers and the solar panel installers? Because I know once they pave, they want to people stay off it for a little bit.
Yes, and the solar installers, they're aware of the schedule, so they'll have to stay off it for a day or two. We're getting some cooler weather in the forecast, so it shouldn't be a problem. So they're going to bring extra plywood to lay down if they have to do a lot of twisting and turning with the telehandler on it to do some installs, but they're going to work with us on that. So.
And my third one's the more complicated one. Once it's installed, what's the process till we can start actually generating and get into the net metering stage of the process?
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of dealings back and forth with hydro on that. It can go simply or it can go slowly. It depends on how it goes. I should have brought Ryan's email. It could have been more in depth on the answer to that, but he explained it very well. Ryan Parton from Crescent Ridge, but it's not so. It's more so just getting things signed off on. That can be a process with hydro, but he's done it enough, and he feels pretty confident he'll be able to get things up and running fairly quickly, I believe, in commission, so that he can start net metering.
And the way I understood the email was that there'll be from the time they get it powered up to the time we actually get to net metering, there'll be some 2 or 3 weeks at least in there where we can generate hydro, but we won't get any credit for it.
We won't get any credit for it, that's correct, yeah.
Okay. Geothermal questions. So how many wells have they decided at this point they're going to drill?
Well, we're still stuck to the 34 in total, or 32 in total, I think it is.
Okay.
And it's been quite a back and forth battle, but yes, the original was 44 and it's been back down to 32, so still 12 more to go.
And are they drilling now, or?
They are drilling. They've had some issues with one of the drills, blew a cylinder and hydraulic line, so that stopped them. So now they have 2 rigs on site. They were not drilling this morning as of this morning, but they're supposed to. We were talking to the subcontractor this afternoon. They're supposed to be getting at it right away. So.
And I think you said November 1st?
That's when we
That's
were
the
told.
latest of many
that
dates.
was the latest of the updates of the updates of the updates.
Okay. And, and my last one is, are we going to be able to do similar to what we're doing with the solar panels, where we would take a year to assess how much energy we're getting, and then if need be, drill more wells?
Yeah, there's still, from the original plan with the 44 wells, there's still room there. All the lines are still running out to the well field, so they're already installed for 44 wells. So if we need additional wells, at least the lines are run out there and will be capped. So there's room to put additional wells out there. So if we have to, I hope we don't, but if we have to, we can drill additional geo wells.
Okay. Good to know we've got that option if need be. So,
Yes.
yep. Thanks, Dave.
Anyone else on that report? Moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that report 2022-155 from the Director of Public Works be received and filed for information purposes only. Anybody want to speak to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And nothing from finance. 4 from corporate services, 8.6. So 8.6A, report 2022-151 from the Legislative Coordinator Deputy Clerk regarding Truth and Reconciliation Day. Alicia, is there anything you want to highlight in that?
No, I'll just leave it open for questions.
Questions from council? Moved by McDonald, seconded by Mitchell, that report 2022-151 from the Legislative Coordinator Deputy Clerk be received and filed for information purposes only. Anybody wish to speak to that? I guess I would just say then, thank you for taking the initiative to do this. It's consistent with our strategic plan policies about being engaged and vibrant. It's consistent with previous resolutions council's passed about truth and reconciliation, and I think it's going to be informative to staff, you know, in the context of EDI training and things that we've done before. It's a step forward, so thank you for taking the initiative to do it. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And 8.6B, report 2022-154 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding bylaw enforcement service agreement. Karen, is there anything you want to highlight in there for council?
I did just want to note that since the writing of this report, Blandford Blenheim and Southwest Oxford have both approved the agreement at their councils last night and this afternoon. So just FYI.
Questions from council on this report? Paul?
Yeah, I read the report and I thought, well, this makes a whole lot of sense. We've gone into a shared agreement with fire on one position we've had for a while, and we're working on another one. But then as I got into it and read the actual agreement, attention to detail, so I come up with 8 simple questions. So I'll ask some and then yield the floor. So I look back in the 2019 budget, and at that time we allocated half of Matt Paul's salary or expenses to bylaw enforcement, the other half to building department, which would meant about 18 hours a week. Now with this agreement, we're looking at about 9 hours per week, plus possibly 2 hours per week of Matt continuing to work on. So 10 or 11 hours a week. How does that compare to the level of service we've been giving or receiving with MEU and Matt over the last year and a half or two?
So we were receiving about 4 to 8 hours a month from MEU. And I don't have a calculation on Matt's exact hours. We weren't utilizing him that much because he was very busy in the building department. So I would just say the 4 to 8 hours a month with MEU.
So this agreement will increase our level of service
Absolutely.
considerably. Okay. There's a line in there about Matt would keep his certifications till the end of next year. So is it the plan at this point that he would phase out at the end of that?
That's correct.
Okay. It says that the decision would be made about supervisor of enforcement services, and who is that?
That's myself.
Okay. The 101,300, does that cover just wages and benefits, or is that all the operating costs of this new position?
That's all the annual costs, for example, phone, clothing, training, everything
Okay.
included in that amount.
And what's included in the 30,250 startup?
A cell phone, a portable radio and charger, a laptop, vehicle, and advertising of the position.
Okay. And are we providing, we're going to be the host for this position. Are we providing a vehicle, or how's that worked in the agreement?
We are the host for this, and the vehicle is included in the startup costs that the 4 rurals will be sharing.
Okay. And it says in the agreement a maximum of 10 hours per week per municipalities. So how's that going to be tracked? And well, a little concerned because it's something where there's going to be an ebb and flow of work between different municipalities. So how are we going to track that?
Absolutely. So we've chatted about that in the meetings that we've been holding, and we do plan to continue to meet regularly and review the kind of the monthly averages of usage. We're not going to get strict on like that it's exactly 10 hours a week. If another municipality has something serious going on, we'll be lenient. But we do plan to continue to meet and review those hours and how that's working, and then if we need to adjust accordingly, we would.
So that sort of answers my last question. At the end of a year, you're going to look at it, and there may be a monetary adjustment of who pays what, but that's to be worked
Absolutely.
out.
That's our plan, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Lots of questions, but Karen and I had this all worked out, so it went relatively quickly.
Anybody else, any questions on it? That was all of them, Paul? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If there's nothing from anybody else then, okay. Moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that report 2022-154 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding bylaw enforcement service agreement be received for information, and that council direct staff to include the costs for a shared service bylaw officer position in the draft 2023 operating budget, and that council approve bylaw 63-22 to authorize the execution of a shared service bylaw enforcement officer agreement with the municipalities of Norwich, Blandford, Blenheim, and Southwest Oxford as proposed. Anybody wish to speak to that? Katie.
Yeah, bylaw has been probably one of the biggest pieces of my job in this seat in terms of my engagement with the public. The public mainly engages with me because they have concerns about bylaw. This is now the third scenario we're seeing for how we're providing this service to the municipality, and I'm incredibly optimistic that this is going to solve some of the problems we had with our previous agreement that was unfortunately terminated, but I think this is a great opportunity for us to do even better. I think this shared service really provides an opportunity for us to be as cost effective as possible in delivering this service, and I think with someone having and we already see this with our clerks do this, our roads department, our fire chiefs, where when you are seeking that sort of, when you're spread across different municipalities, we're all going to learn from what's effective in other municipalities that we're going to be able to apply here. So this person is going to end up whoever it is who's employed, they're going to be able to take what's working in certain areas, and hopefully in the end we'll all do better in terms of our bylaw enforcement because of it. And my main excitement about this is that there's going to be a single point of contact. I know that I have been in contact with various members of our staff on the administrative side through MEU because MEU was not a contact point that we could access, and a lot of bylaw is education. So I really think that having this single point contact that residents and council and staff will have access to is going to be not only more effective, but also free up some of our own staff time that has been eaten up with trying to figure out how to iron out the administrative side. So full support of this, very excited, fully anticipate it to not be perfect out of the gate, and over the coming years we can figure out how it needs to be tweaked to make sure it's addressing some of the things that have been ongoing.
Anyone else? Try me to read it again. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And 8.6C, Report 2022-152 from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding disposal of a municipal office property. Don, is there anything you want to highlight in that?
No, I don't think so.
Questions from council? Moved by McDonald, seconded by Mitchell, that council provide notice of intent to declare 274620 27th line as surplus to the needs of the municipality. Anybody wish to speak to that? That feels really weird, I have to say. Well, also while we're actually like sitting here.
Yeah.
It feels sort of surreal. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And 8.6D, Report 2022-153 from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding potential closure and sale of an unopened portion of Argyle Street in Embro. Don, is there anything you want to highlight in that?
No, I would leave it open for questions from council.
Questions from council? Paul?
Just one question. It doesn't pertain particularly to this closing of this street because it's urban, but in the policy, 1.4, it says purchase of the road allowance for rural road closures is calculated at $6,750 per acre, which is super low compared to the value of agricultural land. So the policy is dated 2004. I just wondered when it was last updated and whether that number is going to be looked at again.
I believe it was last looked at in 2019, but we are going to be reviewing the whole policy again.
Okay, yeah, it was just something that jumped out at me. That, as I say, not relevant to this particular one, but I know we've looked at a lot of policies and updated them, so I just wondered where it was on the list of things to be done.
Anyone else on this one? Moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that notice of the proposed road closing for the unopened portion of Argyle Street as indicated in Report 2022-153 be prepared, and that notice of intent to declare an unopened portion of Argyle Street south of John Street to be surplus to the needs of the municipality. Anybody wish to speak to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And correspondence done. Boards and committees. So I have something here to receive and file for information 10A and B. Is there either of those that anybody has any questions on or wants to pull out separate from that? Anybody want to speak to either of those, 10A or B? Moved by McDonald, seconded by Mitchell, that items 10A and B be received and filed for information purposes only. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And information items 11. So what I have here is something to receive and file A through C. Is there any there that anybody wants to do? Paul?
There's a motion there to deal with B.
Oh, sorry, you're right, it does.
Yeah.
See? A and C. Yes, okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Any others there? A and C, everybody's good with staying as is? So I'll do then, moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that items 11A and C be received and filed for information purposes only. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And moved by Mitchell, seconded by McDonald, that the Council of the Township of Zorra endorses the Oxford County Road Supervisors Association bid to host the 2025 AORS Municipal Trade Show. Anybody wish to speak to that?
Yeah, I think anything that brings 2,000 people to Oxford County, especially an area that where Zorra Township has considerable expertise, should be encouraged. And the purpose of this information item was to ask for support from local municipalities that they can submit along with their bid to host this show in 2025. So that's I brought forward a motion to show our support for hopefully they can host this event.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. No unfinished business, no notices of motion. And bylaws. Moved by Grigg, seconded by Forbes, that bylaws 62-22 and 63-22 be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, and further that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix the corporate seal thereto. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And items of community interest, the calendar. So, what do we got here? Live fire trainings on Saturday, I think like 8 till 4-ish or something like that, but she said give them about an hour to get going before you show up if you're gonna go. Staff are having their session for National Day of Truth for Truth and Reconciliation here on the 29th. Like, if anybody from council wants to come to that, Alicia, what time is that? 9-ish, did you say? 9:30? Okay. 10? Okay. And then that's all I'm showing until we're back here on October 5th. Paul?
This Saturday is one of the celebrating natural connections events that the Upper Thames is holding that I talked about in my report a couple of weeks ago. This one is at Wildwood Park or Conservation Area. Runs from 10 till 2. More information is available on the Upper Thames website, and I've been asked to bring greetings from the board, and I will include from the Township of Zorra at approximately 11 a.m. And next Tuesday, September 27th, will be the monthly Upper Thames Board meeting.
Anybody else have anything in the calendar I'm missing? Okay. Next then is closed. So for anybody here or watching this on YouTube, we're going to go into closed session now in a minute. Video will stop. We'll come back out of closed, but when we come back out of closed, all that's going to happen is some procedural matters, confirmatory bylaw and adjournment when we come out, with the exception, depending on what council does in closed, there may be a decision, there may not be a decision, depending on what goes into closed. I don't know which is going to happen until council goes into closed and decides what they're going to do. So just so that everybody knows. So I have then moved by Forbes, seconded by Grigg, that council move into closed meeting session at 6:24 PM pursuant to section 239.2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or board regarding 46 Commissioner Street. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Alicia, will you let Moved by Forbes, seconded by Grigg, that bylaw 64-22 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held September 21st, 2022 be read a first, second, and third time this September 21st, 2022. And further, that the mayor clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix the corporate seal thereto. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. I knew it. And moved by Grigg, seconded by Forbes, that this session of council be now adjourned and herewith closed at 7 p.m. And the next meeting of council will be called for October 5th, 2022 at 9 a.m. in the council chambers of the Township Municipal Office. All those in favor? Opposed? None. That is carried. And we are adjourned.